Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Laurie Davis. We're just running a little bit late, had a little technology issue there. However, here we are, and you're listening to the Dr. Laurie Davis Show. I am Dr. Laurie Davis, and so happy to be back with you live once again. We're streaming live right now on www.e360tv.com. So you can go in there and search the Dr. Laurie Davis Show. And you won't only just get today's show, you'll see all of our shows from the past. We've got quite a bit of content in there. So you might want to have a Laurie Davis binge day, just saying. And we're also streaming live on our Facebook page, Self Worth the Missing Link Superstars Facebook page, and also, of course, on our YouTube channel, Laurie Davis Show Host. Just go in and search that and you'll see all of our shows. And it was just yesterday that I learned, you know how you can know a lot of things about a lot of things and then you don't know anything about a lot of things? Well, that was me. And we've been on YouTube for a while, but I never realized if you have a YouTube app on your television, then you can click on that and go in and watch us on the big screen, which I had the privilege of doing the other day, watching myself on the big screen. And I'm thinking, oh, whoa, all right. So that's available to us as well. So thank you for that. And we've revamping the show, turning it into a talk show. So if you would like to call in, you can dial us in by phoning 1-825-420-2011 and working on getting a 1-800 number so that doesn't cost anything for our viewers to phone in. And the other thing is on Mondays, we do a recorded show for now. Tuesdays, we talk about finance. Money's a very big issue, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it, so I do. And Wednesday is wellness, emotionally, physically, all the different aspects of wellness. And then on Thursdays, I feature artists, authors, celebrities. And yesterday, we started a talk based on the book written by Rich Hatch. And if you don't know who Rich Hatch is, in 2000, he was the first winner in the program Survivor. How many of you watched that? I know another person, Jillian Larson, a good friend of mine, she was in Survivor. When she was in her 60s, she was accepted onto the show. She applied for 10 years. And I love to feature her too sometime soon because it's been a while. So this keeps popping up for me. And I found this book the other day. And so Rich Hatch, super guy, he says 101 survival secrets, how to make $1 million, lose 100 pounds, and just plain live happily. And so I thought I will pull this out. He's not here with me today, of course, to be interviewed, but I'm going to track him down and see if he will come on the show. But he did leave us with his book and a legacy of 101 survival secrets. So yesterday I shared up to number 25. So today I thought I'd spend some time sharing however many we can get in the next hour. If you'd like to call in, we can take your call. Please dial us up. Let us know that you're watching. Phone us and say, hey, hi, Laurie, how are you doing? I don't care. And just phone in and do that. We're all set up to take your call. So there you have it. So let's start. Rich Hatch. Now, the next section is called risk taking and challenges. Boy, that's a good one. I just came out of 2 weeks in the bush due to the wildfire evacuations here in Alberta, Canada. We need to know how to take risks and face challenges and not lose our cookies, is what I'm saying, really. So he says, assess the appropriate level of risk for you in any situation. So if I'm walking down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm going to the banking machine and I want to get some money out, not really appropriate and would be considered high risk. And then I get robbed and I want to blame the thief. Well, what part did we play? However, Rick says an action that's risky for one person may not be for another. Well, maybe if I was 6'4" and I weighed 400 pounds and I walked down to the banking machine, I might not think it's dangerous, right? Asking you to drive 120 miles an hour in your car is very different from asking a race car driver to do the same thing. Find a risk that's challenging enough while offering a likely reasonable amount of success, given your level of expertise. So I take many risks. I might not walk down to the ATM machine at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm a senior and I'm not very big and I could be easily taken over. However, having said that, I've taken lots of risks in my business, in my personal life. And I'll give you a personal example of that. In 1970, my husband Ron had a massive stroke, and I didn't want to send him to a rehab center because I didn't want him to see anybody who had had a stroke, whether they be in a wheelchair or incapacitated, because I thought, once you see something, you can't unsee it anymore. And so I decided we would rehab him at home. This was very risky because he could have had another stroke at any time. He could have had a seizure. There's lots of things that could have gone wrong. But I knew in my heart he would recover more quickly if he was safely home with me in his own bed, getting the proper nutrition, etc. And so I took a huge risk. I did all the research that I could possibly do on stroke survivors and how to care for them. So we need to be able to take big risks. Sometimes it's a matter of life or death when we do that. So I'm all about that. Number 27, Rick says, accept risk. Now, I'd like to interchange the word risk. I think a risk is like an investment. Instead of taking a risk, you're making an investment. So if those two words could be interchanged. In order to change our life, we have to be able to accept a certain element of risk. We have to go from a zone of certainty to perhaps one of uncertainty. You don't know how you're going to get out of a situation. When we had that fire evacuation, we could have potentially, which we didn't have to, but it could have happened, that we would have come home to nothing. Our houses would have been burned to the ground if it hadn't been for the hard and diligent work of those firefighters. So by leaving our home and not being able to protect it, we took a huge risk. So by accepting risk, we either get penalized or rewarded. But if we don't go through the risk, we'll never know whether or not there was a reward at the end of it. Realizing that time goes by quickly, and even if you are penalized, you're able to achieve the ultimate reward and regroup before trying again. Use that to motivate ourselves to take another risk. How much time do we want to go by until we try to make a change in our life that could make us happier? So any risk is worth it, even if it fails, because we learn from it. What did we learn not to do? A lot of times people think in order to, a lot of my clients will say to me, I just want to be a better person. A better person? You're already fantastic. What we're really meaning, we need to say, I want to be more effective. I want to be more effective in the way I communicate, my relationships, my career, my health and wellness. I just want to be more effective and get bigger results. But we clump that all together and say, I want to be a better person. No, there's nothing wrong with us. We're good. Our situations may not be perfect, though, and that's what we need to work on. I love number 28. Evaluate the likelihood of failure. So you put that into the equation. This might not work out before you let the fear of it stop you. Oh, that's so critical. Look at a situation realistically. Weigh the cost of the worst thing that could happen against the benefits of the best thing that could happen. And many of us have done pros and con lists when we go to make a decision. We go, okay, should I buy that house or not buy that house? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And in my world, my life, the bigger list wins. So choose the risks where the value of the positive outcome outweighs what you could lose. See, we're so hung up with what we could lose. I might lose my house in the fire. I might lose my girlfriend, my dysfunctional girlfriend. I might lose my kids if I go to get a divorce. I might lose, instead of looking at the upside of what could be if I take the risk. And then you make a decision. So many people make a decision from a place where they don't even have all the information. They don't have a game plan. They don't have the info to make a competent decision. 29, Rick, oh my goodness. Acknowledge that not doing anything also has a price tag or a cost. So when you're evaluating possible outcomes, don't forget that not doing anything also costs and carries risks. Weigh the risks involved in waiting versus those associated with moving ahead. Decide whether you really need to make a decision between action and inaction quickly, or if we can afford to spend the time to gather even more information. So this is about decision making, and what I know about that, we all have a process that we use to make decisions. So maybe let's say I want to buy a blender, and I go online and I research the thing to death, the brands, the color, the price, and I'm spending all this time. Remember, I'm only just buying something to chop up some food, a blender. And in six months goes by and I still don't have a blender. Well, I missed out on those smoothies and that healthy drink juicing. And what has it cost me to spend all that time researching? But we have people who can't make a decision without researching. Then we have people who can't make a decision unless they seek the counsel of someone else. Oh, I've got to ask my lawyer. I've got to ask my pharmacist. I've got to ask my dentist. I have to ask my sister. I need to talk to my husband. And maybe I can't even go shopping without taking a friend because I can't make a decision about what top I should get. A lot of us use other people to help us make our decisions. Why is that? Well, I don't want to make the wrong one. But if they make the wrong one, they're accountable. I don't have to be accountable. That's why we get other people's opinions. And that is so dangerous. I have a personal story about that. I worked in the fashion industry for quite a few years, and my job was to wardrobe people and help them find the right outfits that suited their body shape and everything. And I had this one woman, come into the shop, and she needed a dress for her son's wedding. So she brought her daughter. Now, she showed up in a pair of overalls and rubber boots. She was a farmer's wife. And it had been a long time since she had bought a dress. And who did she bring with her to help her pick out a dress? Her daughter, who was in overalls and rubber boots and had never bought a dress. Sometimes we seek the counsel of people who know less than we do. So I decided I was going to take action on this one. And I said to the daughter, you know, maybe you need a coffee. Would you like to have a coffee? And she said, sure. I said, so why don't you go down to the food court and get Mom and I and you a coffee? And when you come back, I'll have the perfect dress picked out for her. So I got her out of the equation because her input had no value. She didn't know anything about fashion. So, but the mom, not knowing what to do, brought her daughter along. Maybe she could help. So what I'm saying to you is, a lot of us don't make a decision until we have somebody else's opinion. What do you think I should do? What is your thought on that? Which is a good thing to ask, but it should never be the deciding factor, what others have to say. So how much time have we wasted seeking the counsel of other people? So long story short, the daughter came back. I had the mom step. I said to the daughter, sit down in the chair and I'm going to bring Mom out and you tell me what you think. I'm asking for her opinion. I'm asking because I knew it would wow her. So anyway, Mom comes out of the dressing room and she's got the perfect dress, the perfect color, and the daughter starts crying. And she says, Mom, I have never seen you look so beautiful. And then the mom started crying. And then I started crying. This is all over a dress. It doesn't take much, to change a life. And they were so thankful and so appreciative. So the next kind of decision maker is an impulsive decision maker. And impulsive sometimes is a good thing, but most times is not. So if you've had struggles with addictions, you've probably adopted a behavior that's very impulsive. And so we have to be careful of that. Making quick decisions with not enough information. So there's like a balance there. Then we have people who make a decision based on their feelings. If it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it. Well, that's a pretty accurate decision maker because if you go with your guts, when we go with our guts, we're usually right. Or if we go with our heart, we're usually correct. For me today, after having struggled through all different types of decision making and risk taking, now what I do is if someone puts an opportunity across my desk or I have the chance to do a contract or take on business, I sleep on it. I wait. I don't make a decision right away. I give myself 24 hours. But if I can't make a decision in 24 hours, the time is not right to make that decision. So, should I leave my husband? Well, you think about that. And if you still feel the same way in the morning, maybe he comes home drunk and you're going, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. Wait till the morning and then make your decision. Not in the heat of an argument or in the heat of a crisis. Not a good time to make a decision. All right, Rick, you're spinning a lot of information out of me here today. You're listening to the Laurie Davis Show, the Dr. Laurie Davis Show. And if you want to tune in, you can do that by going to www.e360tv.com. You can stream live on Self-Worth, the Missing Link Superstars. And of course on YouTube. And if you search Laurie Davis Show host, all of our shows are there. If you have a YouTube app on your TV, hey, we get to be on your big screen. So that's a great thing. I love that. And on Tuesdays, our shows are about wealth and money. Wednesdays, we talk about wellness. And on Thursdays, I feature celebrities, authors, athletes, and who knows what else. Tip number 30, survival secret. Assess what is the worst that could happen in a situation you are afraid of entering into. Maybe that's a new job. Maybe that's a new relationship. Maybe that's a different place to live. And if we can live with the worst possible result, then go forward with all of our energy and do not waste time on non-productive worrying. So let's say I decide, I really need a fresh start. I really need to move forward. Maybe I need to get out of my original toxic environment, wherever that is, for a fresh start. Then you focus on that fresh start rather than what you're leaving behind. Because obviously, what we're leaving behind hasn't worked for us. So, or we wouldn't even be thinking about a fresh start. If I'm thinking about I'm in the wrong relationship here, start focusing on the kind of relationship you really want and let the other go, and doors will pop open. Number 31, I love this, what he says. Take a chance just for the hell of it. Just because you can. Then take another one, and then take another one. And when you look back years and years from now, you get to understand that the biggest risk anyone ever took was to live life less than a full life. I'm going to repeat that. That's worth repeating. When you look back years and years from now, you'll understand that the biggest risk anyone ever took was to live less than a full life. Oh, I so agree with that. Number 32. I love this one. I think he's talking to me today. I feel pretty connected to this stuff. He says, make as many mistakes as you can, but just make them fast. Gather as much information as we can through actually doing something instead of just reading about it or thinking about it. Jump into it. Learn from the mistakes and discover what it is that you like and what makes you happy. Sometimes that happens by experiencing what you don't like. Married to the wrong person. Last year, this time I was going through a round of cancer. I didn't like that. I don't want that in my life. Don't waste time. When we think about risk, consider that very little that you're ever likely to encounter is life-threatening. For some people, it is life-threatening. But when you've learned the lessons, you run, you move. When you realize that you're living less instead of more, run away from the less, is what I'm hearing he says. Number 33, set your limits. That's about having boundaries. That's about having boundaries. A lot of people have a difficult time having boundaries because they're worried about hurting somebody's feelings or not being liked, or they won't get the approval, or they won't get the raise, or they won't get the promotion. Again, they weigh out what it could cost. But if we're dissatisfied with long hours and you still have not quit your pathetic job, then at least set your limits on how much you're willing to do at the pathetic job. Do something courageous the next time you're expected to stay after 5. Do as much as you can with your 8-hour day and then leave at 5 o'clock. You'll be amazed how other people respond to you once you've clearly defined what you are and are not willing to do. Oh my goodness, that's like a big bell going off in my brain. You'll be amazed how other people respond to you once you've clearly defined what you are and you're not willing to do. That's big. That's really big. Oh boy. I've got to remember that one over and over. Number 34. Confrontation is a good thing. Really? I did everything in the past to avoid confrontation. Actually, confrontation is at the core of honesty and can help us to ascertain the truth in any given situation. Oh, I'd be terrified if I had to go in and speak to a parent, let's say, about their kid when I was teaching school, and I thought it might be confrontational because the parent might not agree with me. So I did things to avoid it. I didn't go. I didn't tell the parent. Well, that wasn't being honest. That's like lying by omission. Confrontation is a good thing. What the heck is going on here? What are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. Mhm. So the next series of survival tips, survival secrets, is the chapter called Challenging Ourselves. Change your routine. Be flexible. He said, throughout the book, I've stressed the importance of challenging yourself. How do we do that? We start by challenging your routine. This isn't easy. There's a good reason why people fall into a rut. Ruts are easy. That's why doing something different will seem difficult at first, strenuous, and not worth the effort. But if we are in a rut, we owe it to ourselves to get out of it by taking a risk. And once again, ask ourselves, if I do this, what's the worst thing that could happen? And if you can live with the worst thing that could happen, you'll be fine. We'll be fine. We have a saying that a rut is merely a grave with the ends kicked out. So how many of us are in the rut? And I just wrote a chapter in one of our compilation books. It's all about showing up, and the power is in the asking. And my chapter was called It Takes Guts to Leave the Ruts. And that's the truth. It's a very big, courageous step that most people are not willing to make. They're not willing to make those changes. They're not willing to do the work. Precisely. Number 36. In order to achieve any goal, you first must have clarity and a desire. I always say to my clients, there's two things I need from you to get to work. Number one, are you willing to make changes? Yes, I'm willing to make the changes. Okay, my next question is, are you ready to do the work? Maybe not so much. Or I might say, you might be ready to do the work, but the question remains, are you willing to do the work? You might have had a crisis and you realize, oh my gosh, I can't keep going like this. I have to stop this. This is not supporting me. It's not supporting my family. It's not supporting my career. And you have like a wake-up call. And life-threatening situations are wake-up calls. Those are wake-up calls. Those are warnings. And we need to pay attention. The first step toward achieving a goal, whether it's to get well, whether it's to become financially independent, whether it's to build new relationships, grow my business, doesn't matter what it is. But the first step is being clear-sighted enough to realize that there is something bigger and better out there for us. Not just those things that we've imagined in our little tiny box. If we look around, we can see such awareness because it already exists in successful, happy people. Instead of being envious, realize too that we can have that success and happiness also. Ask myself, how am I going to get there? And once we've defined what it is that we want, we then embrace the desire that we already have because we've already declared it. I want something different. I want a new home. I need a new relationship. I want to be more productive. I would like to have more confidence. So the desire, in fact, helped us realize that we can have the success that's been eluding you. It's already in you. It's not going anywhere. It's just that we resist it because we don't want to acknowledge it. Then carry out the steps necessary to transform your vision into reality. I tell my clients all the time, you can eat an elephant a bite at a time, a bite at a time. Doesn't have to all happen in one day. You know, you go to a 1-day workshop and you want it all to be fixed. No, it didn't take us one day to get where we are. It took years, it took decades for some of us. So then we have to turn that around. Cool. Number 37, question the direction of our life. And that is going to put us in the most challenging situations we can. When you identify people that we can learn from and they point to things about us that are problematic, thank them for having done so because we didn't know. We know we can be in a forest and not see the trees. We have opened the fridge door and can't find the jam. That's because of a lack of clarity. Then figure out whether you agree with their assessment. Do you agree with them or not? And I always say to my clients, I might say, my experience with you is that when we want to talk about something serious, you change the subject. That's very manipulative. Are you realizing you're doing that? And most times people don't because they're not aware, they're not connected. Do something about it and then move on to look for other things you can improve on. So we always need to be mindful of those behaviors, the environment we grew up in, what isn't working for us, what's not happening for us, right? We need to be paying attention. And in there too would be a big piece called do not take things personally. So many of us, when someone is trying to mentor us or show us, take us down a good path, we challenge that by taking things personally. And that's a dysfunctional behavior. And I've got 100 dysfunctional behaviors I want to share because I'm going to have a book, 101 dysfunctional behaviors. Just like that. 101 dysfunctional behaviors. And you do a survey and you can see how dysfunctional we are. It's just amazing. And taking things personally is one of them, by the way, that I wrote. Number 38, challenge yourself differently. Challenge yourself differently. I'm not talking about, this is what Rick says, and I quote, I'm not talking about becoming a workaholic. I'm talking about challenging yourself differently because by doing so, you cannot help but learn more about who you are. If you're used to challenging yourself in one way, and maybe to you that means working 10 hours a day, well, you're not really challenging yourself at all because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. To challenge ourselves would be to go to work for an hour, take the rest of the day off when you know that you have work to do. Oh, that is so hard for people. I've always got things to do. Always a list as long as my arm. But I know now how to take time out, take downtime. Quit at 3 o'clock and go home and watch a movie, and I'm all charged up to come back at 7 if I have to. A lot of times I don't. But I worked many evenings. I can't tell you how many years my husband sat alone watching television when I was working. And guess what? Time went by just the same. Time went by. Oh, number 39. Seeing the big fish does not necessarily mean catching the big fish. I'm not talking about stingrays here. I'm talking about goals, whether in business or in your personal life, and how you go about achieving them. It's useless to set goals and then not challenge yourself to achieve them. Challenging oneself to reach the goals that you've set is the best way to make sure your risk will pay off in reward. So don't bother setting goals that you have no intention of working on because, oh well. Here about a month ago, I mailed out 100 or more envelopes with my worthy Indigenous parenting process in there. And I mailed an envelope with, I'm just grabbing one here, with 2 or 3 in each envelope. We have this beautiful product called Worthy Indigenous Parenting, and it's for all children of any race, background. The principles are so powerful. And so I sent it out, and I sent 3 or 4 in an envelope, and I just generically addressed them to health and wellness services. And I thought, I probably won't hear back from anybody, but I'm going to do this old-fashioned way of marketing that I used to do many years ago before social media and technology. And I actually heard back from somebody yesterday, a nation with whom I've never done any work, want to have more information about that. So, because I see the big fish there is having every parent that we can possibly get into learning more about how to be more effective, because that ultimately changes a whole generation of kids who grow up with better values, better morals, better everything. So the reward was just getting that one call. I thought, because I had set that up, I said, if I send these out and I get one call, it'll be worth it. Because that one call can now impact 2,500 people in a community. Get it? Mm-hmm. Number 40. Overcome functional fixedness. I have no idea what that even means, but let's find out. Rick says, have you ever used a screwdriver to open a can of paint? Yes. Well, why did you do that? A screwdriver is made to turn screws, not to open cans of paint. Oh, but it was available and it worked. Good for you. You've just overcome your functional fixedness by picking up a screwdriver as opposed to driving a hardware store and pick up a paint can opener. Most people are functionally fixed about things and people in their lives every single day. If I'm walking down the hall toward you at work and I think to myself, oh, here comes that jerk I don't like, and avoid you at all costs, I believe our next interaction is going to repeat prior negative interactions. How responsible am I for the way you interact with me? Well, if I challenged you differently and you interact with me positively, so make an effort to challenging yourself. You never know what you may discover about yourself and the people around you. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to read that over a few times before I get it, but I think basically what he's saying lots of things in there. Expectations, having expectations, judgment. How responsible am I for the way you interact with me? I would say completely responsible. Because if you put out disrespect and venom and you think people should still treat you nicely, that's an unrealistic expectation. Hmm. I have to think about that one. It's kind of complicated, isn't it? Number 41. I love this too. You're not a menial person, even if you're doing a menial job. If you truly believe you're not meant for something better, you'll never achieve something better. And if you're happy doing what you're doing, then there's nothing better. I've done those menial jobs and love them. I love being a server. I'm thinking when I retire, I'll get a job as a waitress in a restaurant. I love that. Helping people feel satisfied with a meal. There's something sacred about food when it's treated properly. And I have another saying, just because, and I'll just use the male gender here, just because of course I want to be politically correct, just because a brilliant man loses his job, doesn't mean he's not still a brilliant man. See? I could say person, when a brilliant person loses their job, it doesn't mean they're still not brilliant. And this came up a while ago with my husband as well. He's an aircraft maintenance engineer, and when he's talking to people, he'll say, well, I used to be. And I corrected that and said, no, you still are. You just happen to be retired now, and you don't do that anymore. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you are, in fact, an aircraft maintenance engineer. And that was pointed out to me when I told people I was a retired teacher. And somebody said, Laurie, I'm sorry, but you're still teaching. And I went, you're right. I'm not a retired teacher. Number 42. I'm retired from the school system, mind you. That I retired from, but not from the actual skill and work that's involved in helping others learn. 42. Ask questions and listen to the answers. The most challenging thing we can do is to listen to another human being without interrupting, without reacting, without responding. Just listen. You will be amazed what you can learn. And that is so, so true. "43. If something really is your only vice, get rid of it." Oh, I can't wait to hear. I hear this one a lot, he says. Oh, smoking is my only vice. Drinking is my only vice. Eating is my only vice. And don't we deserve at least one thing in our lives that makes us happy? Well, that's the problem. Vices, by their definition, cannot make you happy. Vices make it easier for you to be less successful. It's the one thing that's holding you back, weighing you down, and keeping you from what you really want in life. So challenge yourself. Drop the vice and help yourself get happier. That's a good one. I can relate to that. Number 44. Put your faith in yourself to change your life and stop waiting for change to come from somewhere else. That's what I mentioned yesterday when I said, oh, I'll be happier when the kids graduate from high school. I'll be happier when I have that new renovated kitchen. I'll be happy when I lose 100 pounds. I'll be happy when, it's always conditional. There's always a condition attached. People are often looking for the quick fix. Oh, I experience that a lot in my work, to change their lives. The winning lottery ticket, the big inheritance. The truth is, there is no quick fix. It took years for us to get where we are. You can change your life and make it better. You can become happier. But it won't happen unless you're willing to take the first step toward success for yourself. Wow, that's pretty cool. All right, I'll do a couple of more. Well, I'll end with 45. Number 45 today. Potential is unexplored possibilities. I relate well to this because as a trained educator, we were trained to build potential. When you sent your little kids to school and they came to people like me, our job was to build their potential. First, we had to discover what it was, if they had any, and most kids do, 99.9%. Unexplored possibility. It's what people could be capable of if they were challenged by their goals and their desire. Potential is unexplored possibilities. What are the possibilities for me? Wow. It took me a long time to come to the realization of how much potential I had. I thought I would die in the classroom after 40 years and get a pension, which I wouldn't be able to live on, by the way, right now. I'd have to go flip burgers at McDonald's or somewhere. Not that that's a problem, but who wants to be doing that when they're 75? I could do it though, because I have the energy and the stamina. I could actually do that. And that comes as a comfort to me because I would never be out of work. I could always find something to do. See? So we need to recognize our potential. The earlier we do that, the greater the journey. And some people give up on their potential because they're ready to retire, which to me is a death wish. It may not kill you physically, but it will kill you mentally. And my mom is always concerned, God love her, that I work too much or I work too hard. And I always say to her, Mom, I'm not going to sit around watching television with the energy level I have right now. Maybe 10 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, maybe next week, but not right now. I know how to knit an Afghan. I don't need to learn how to do that. I already know how to do that. I want to learn things I don't know. And that's always been the way my mind works. When I was a child, how many of us heard that saying, eat everything on your plate because there are starving children in foreign countries? And in my case, my mom would use the country of Africa as an example. And the way that my mind worked, because it was all about that potential of what could happen. I remember and I was punished for saying this because I was talking back. And I said, Mom, if you're so worried, then just take the food off my plate, put it in a brown envelope, put a stamp on it, and send it to Africa. Because I was always looking ahead at what could be, rather than what happened. Now I know if something happens like that fire, and we were evacuated from our homes, we endured a trauma. Now I'm smart enough to know what is a trauma, what are the after effects, and what do I need to do to get past it quickly. But back in the day when I didn't know anything about that, I would be going through traumas and struggling and suffering and making poor decisions and lashing out at people that I love and blah, blah, blah. See? Because you don't know what you don't know. So thank you, Rick. I love this book. And I'm not sure if it's still in print, but I would highly recommend it, that's for sure. You've been listening to the Dr. Laurie Davis Show. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis. Our graduation for our honorary doctorate is happening on the 17th of June, just a week away. I'm so honored and privileged to have been nominated and received and accepted for the work that I've done in the world. I received it openly with a full heart because I knew I had earned it. And I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday as we do our financial program. I think on Tuesday we're going to talk about what is money, actually. What is it? And my good friend Ramin will be here to join me and to co-host. So thank you for listening today. Broadcasting live on Self-Worth the Missing Link Superstars. Also broadcasting live right now on E360 TV. And if you zoom into YouTube, you can watch me on your big screen television. Just search Laurie Davis, show host. Thank you for joining me today. It's been my pleasure to share wisdom from someone else and explore. I love learning from other people, so I just learned a whole bunch here that I already know and a few things that I don't know. There were a few surprises for me in that reading today. So bye for now. Stay safe. Love you all and enjoy the rest of your week and have a terrific weekend.